Saints fans and Who-Dats from all over the world. It's time for the Bayou Blitz. With your host, Bob Rose.
Happy Wednesday, New Orleans Saints fans of the NFL, fans of the Bayou Blitz everywhere. I am Bob Rose, and I would love to tell you I feel refreshed from our little 2-week hiatus, but I'm a little beaten up myself. We are back and ready to go, though, and taking you into the Saints and NFL offseason, and excited to do so. Joining me, as always, is my partner in crime and equally beat up, Mr. Kyle Mosley. How are you tonight, Kyle?
Yeah, well, look, I got a letter from the commissioner. He's already telling me something about I'm suspended for the whole year, but I got to appeal. But how you guys doing, Who Dat Nation?
I do hope everybody is out there is doing well. We are excited to get back at it. I don't know about you, my friend. I had mixed feelings about taking the last couple of weeks off. I certainly love doing this on a weekly basis. And we've had some wonderful participation by our viewers and equally terrific guests. But I think we both needed the break. I think Who Dat Nation needed a little bit of a break from football.
Yeah, being that everything that happened, knowing that the Saints should have been in the Super Bowl, but we weren't, knowing that it was a pretty emotional time, I think we needed some time to kind of let things marinate. Let's get back to it. The combine is right there in front of us. The draft is going to be in front of us in several weeks. So, I mean, there's some critical things to talk about in the Who Dat Nation, but there's not a whole lot to talk about. But there are some things we got to get you guys up and abreast about what's going to happen with the Saints and some of our thoughts.
Yeah, and this offseason is going to be key. Most offseasons are, especially when you're a contending team or trying to get into the position of being a contender. But Kyle, when we last spoke and we last aired, we've been talking about some of the in-house decisions and issues that the New Orleans Saints have to deal with, and some of the names and positions there. And like you said, over the next couple months, really, we're going to be talking about what we perceive as some of the team's biggest needs and some players and faces that we hope might be available to fill some of those needs. So there's going to be plenty to talk about. It is kind of nice having having that travesty of an NFC Championship game. An equally abysmal Super Bowl in our rearview mirror, because this offseason, or any offseason really, can be fun for so many reasons, because everybody thinks that they know everything, and many of those same people think that everybody else knows nothing. So it is by far the most fun time of year to debate different things, and that's all this is. I mean, really, there's not too many of us that know any more or any little. Any less, rather, than anybody else out there. So, I mean, this is going to be fun. We expect that the Saints are going to be active in places of need, and they're going to be pretty selective in the moves that they make and the moves that they have to make, but they are going to be very important because this team certainly has the pieces in place to be a championship team, as we have seen for in large part over the last 2 years. And it's not so much missing pieces, it's just trying to keep that chemistry together and make sure you get better rather than stay stagnant, because everybody else around them is going to work to get better. So it's going to be a key off-season for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I apologize, Who Dat Nation. The free agency is right there upon us as well. So first, we're going to have to figure out what's going to happen in free agency. Are the Saints going to be wheelers and dealers in the market? Will we be able to bring back Mark Ingram and his key contribution not only to the Saints running game, but his contribution to that locker room is what is going to be so critical for the New Orleans Saints. And, can the Saints be able to make some moves? I know we let go of Kurt Coleman, and we had Ben Watson. He's retiring, and they're trying to free up some cap space in order to be able to make some acquisitions if necessary.
Yeah, and that's where it's going to be interesting. I know you and I are both extremely active through social media. It is really the lifeline to what we do as far as exposure and coverage goes. And it always makes me chuckle because there are a handful of naysayers and doom seekers thinking that the Saints are doomed because they don't have a first-round draft pick, or the Saints are doomed because they only have, I think it's approximately $11 to $13 million free in cap space right now. Look, since when during the Sean Payton and Mickey Loomis regime have the Saints not been able to financially figure out the moves that they need to make to bring in the pieces that they feel they need to bring in? I'm not worried about the cap number whatsoever. If Payton and Loomis see somebody that they believe can help their team, they're going to do whatever financially necessary to go in and get them. It's the moves that they have made during that stretch between, we'll say, 2014, 15, and even for the most part 2016, that kind of handcuffed this team on the field. Over the last two seasons, 2017 and 2018, I have loved the majority of the moves that they have made, and that has been responsible, for getting this team into the position that they are in as far as being a legitimate Super Bowl contender. If you're worried about the cap space, don't be. If you're worried about the fact that they may have to cut or trade away one of their big name players to free up cap space, I wouldn't be worried about that either. I think that there are some contracts on the table that could stand to be renegotiated, and a couple other players that you and I mentioned a few weeks ago that could possibly be cap casualties. But if they are, it's not because of necessarily their cap hit to the team. It's because the team itself, Peyton and that front office, feels that they can get better on the field by moving on from a particular player.
Right. And look, guys, this is where Mickey Loomis, Jeff Ireland, and those guys are going to get paid to be able to make at the Super Bowl for 2020. So we have on the line also an editor of Saints News Network online, and he is also writer with the Big Easy magazine, Mr. Barry Hirstius, my man from Harahan. What's going on?
Hey, great to be on. I've owed you guys a couple of appearances, and so here I am.
All right.
It has been a while. We're certainly happy to have you back. I hope things are going well for you down there.
Yeah, not too bad. Well, it's Mardi Gras time, as you guys probably know. So might hit a few parades this weekend. I got Endymion Saturday night, so we'll see what's going on Mardi Gras Day next Tuesday. So just caught the conversation that you guys are engaged in, and I missed a very opening minute or two of your monologue there, Bob. So I'm kind of coming in halfway, missing what you said, but I caught the gist of it, so to speak. I think the biggest thing is this. There's a big argument on Saints Twitter, as you know, Bob. I know Kyle's busy during the day, so he probably doesn't get to keep up with it. But as Bob, I'm sure you've seen, there's this big argument about how aggressive should this team be this off season, given the way that the previous season just ended. Because, clearly we saw that this franchise was robbed of a world championship, or at least a shot at it, at least a legitimate chance to win it. Well, we can't say they would have beat the Patriots. We assume they could have beat the Patriots. It certainly would have gave them a better game than the Rams did. That's neither here or there. But bottom line is, how many tweaks do we make to the roster? Obviously, you need defensive tackle now because as Bob, I'm sure you've covered it and I've covered it, Rankins is not going to be back until October. Right. Look, it would be great if his Achilles healed miraculously over the summer and just, he was way ahead of schedule, and we saw it happen with Okafor last year. But, that's a stretch. So if the prognosis is accurate, then you have to assume that Rankin is going to be out till about October. On Yamada, it's iffy. I've heard a few people tell me that they don't think he'll be suspended. It's not a Randy Gregory situation where where he's in teaching Tong out there, But bottom line is, NFL, they're going to crack down on everything, and being that the Saints franchise and the NFL ain't exactly on the greatest of terms right now. So wouldn't shock me if Yamada got a 4-game suspension. So are we really? And Tyler Davison, maybe he comes back, maybe he doesn't. So are we really going to go into the D-line? No knock on Taylor Stallworth. Very talented kid, very impressive. Nevertheless, this is the NFL, man, and we're trying to win a world championship. Are you really going to start the season with Taylor Stallworth? So, I know I'm getting long-winded. No. Point being, there's tweaks that they have to make. They have to. Yeah. They have to. Well, if you're going to stay competitive with the Rams, because, look, the Rams are going to come back next year. They're going to try to win it again. Believe me.
Yeah. So, well, Barry,
you got to hang with you. You got to keep up with everybody.
Here's my thoughts, man. And I have been keeping up with that aspect of it. It's pretty clear. Mm-hmm. You have to be aggressive, no matter who you are, what front office. The front offices that stay pat usually are the front offices that are picking first.
You're the Cleveland Browns.
10.
You're the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, first through 10 in the next NFL draft. And you have guys like McCoy that may be available. You have Sue. We don't know if he's going back to the Rams. He may be available. Right. You've got to shore up that spot. And I'm glad you say that because Rankins has a lot of weight to him, right? There's no way he's going to be full force. He's not as limber as an Okafor, and what Okafor did was pretty remarkable to be able to get back in the time that he was able to. But you've got to look at what's out there on the market. You've got to be able to say we do need to shore up that defensive tackle spot. And we needed to do that anyway because we had some guys who did well, like Stallworth, and being serviceable in the interior for the Saints. But we still need to have somebody. And look, man, I would really make a push to try to go for McCoy versus Sue, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. But and the latest I heard was that Bruce Arians is having a change of heart now because the whole thing was that they brought in I can't, the guy's name escapes me now. He was head coach for the Jets just last year. He was defensive coordinator with Arians in Arizona. Todd Bowles. Sorry, his name escaped my mind. Todd Bowles is the new defensive coordinator in Tampa Bay, and they're switching, I believe, from the 4-3 to the 3-4.
Right.
So this whole thing was, McCoy's a quote-unquote 4-3 end. He's not a 3-4 end, the way that, non-technique is lined up different, in the two alignments. Anyway, long story short, so allegedly Bowles and Arians had a talk, and so then word was, maybe McCoy's not going to be on the trading block. So I don't think you're going to spend a bunch of money on a Grady Jarrett, because if you're spending that kind of money on Grady Jarrett and you're basically replacing Rankin, you don't need to replace Rankin. You just need to cover him while he's out, which Anyamata, to me, is capable of doing. But he gets popped for the weed, so now that's a problem. So, you got to address this. I don't care what nobody has. I've seen people say, well, let's just stick Taylor Starr. Yeah, go ahead. You go ahead and do that. And you don't know. We haven't seen the Saints schedule yet. What if they open against the Rams? You gonna start Taylor Starworth in the middle of that first game? I mean, again, not a knock on the kid. I love him, but and that's the type of stuff. And then there's this argument now about safety, because you cut Kurt Coleman. Von Bell had a phenomenal year, and kudos to Bob on the phenomenal article that he wrote on Von Bell. I know he thinks he could have done better, but just because he's too self-critical. He's just too self-critical. But anyway, I think you do more than great job, my friend. So Von Bell had an impressive year, would you not say, Bob? So a pleasant surprise, very pleasant surprise in my opinion. So Marcus Williams, I thought, regressed a little bit. Now, there's some argument, I don't know, Nick Underhill ever listens to this show, but he'll probably chastise me and say, oh, Marcus Williams didn't have that better. Okay, whatever. I personally, from my point of view, Marcus Williams regressed a little bit. So bottom line is this. If you cut Kurt Coleman, you still need a third safety for depth. So this idea that we're going to put Justin Hardy back there as the third safety, that's ridiculous. And Von Bell will be a free agent in 2020. So who's to say he's going to you see what I'm saying? Saints fans, and God bless them, I love them. And I grew up as one, as you guys obviously know. But they don't think sometimes. You have to think long term. You can't – everybody's so in the moment. But you got to think long term. And if you guys were on Twitter tonight, you saw me talking about Drew Brees. Look, and I'm not suggesting – I know somebody's going to jump on me and say, oh, my God, Barry Hirstius said Drew Brees is in physical decline. And, and then I'll have Ralph Marlboro from Saints Forecast and all these other people on Saints. He's not touched. He's got a clean pocket. He makes the throw. It's about 5 yards sharp.
Barry.
So my point is, he's starting. The decline is beginning. I'm not saying he can play another 2. Look at Brady. Brady can't really throw a deep ball anymore per se, but he can still throw it 25 to 30 yards. He's still got Julian Edelman. He's still got Gronkowski. You see my point? So Brees can still play in 2 or 3 years. Yeah, but that decline is coming.
Barry, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
I've got to disagree with you on this one, man. The decline is just not coming. That decline was like 3 or 4 years ago.
Well, at least somebody agrees with me. Because Kyle and God knows with us working together, I get a lot of heat from fans when I put articles out that might suggest something that they don't want to hear.
Well, I'm going to say this.
The man is 40 years old. What do you expect?
Yeah, well, Barry, I'm going to say this, man. And me and the professor, before he passed away, man, we would talk about this. And even with Coach Rick, we brought this up in – golly, it must be 3 or 4 years ago, and I first brought it up as a question on the air. Do you see a decline in his long ball? And it was evident that it started a long time ago. And Brees even admitted he was off on those balls, guys. And we've got to get our heads out the sand. If we're Saints fans, everything can be. We got to hear the rosy, the most perfect this and this. This got to be all. Everything's got to be perfect, black and gold. No, that's not reality.
Yeah. I agree with you. It's it's everything is who that, and look, hey, we all love it, but man, you got to be realistic.
Yeah. Well, Bob, what's your thoughts, buddy?
Wow, there's so much content that both of you just threw out there.
Hey, you need to have me on more often, pal.
First of all, and Barry, I agree with you because I've been vocal about this too, about Breeze's long ball. Hey, look, I'm not saying that the guy has declined to the point where he fell off a cliff like Peyton Manning did a couple of years ago.
No, and I'm not exactly, and I'm not suggesting that either. And again, no. I allude to Tom Brady and make the Tom Brady reference because you watch Tom Brady. Just look at Tom Brady. He just won his 6th Super Bowl. Okay, he's big. He looks like he reminds me of Ken Stabler. The only difference is he's got an offensive line, and he's never had a serious injury in his whole career. I think Brady's had, one major injury in his career? I think he's out that 1 year. And that's it. So, he's avoided one, he's avoided any crippling. Kenny Stabler was destroyed. Poor guy was beat up. But you look at Brady, you look at, I didn't watch the Super Bowl, but inevitably you wind up seeing highlights of something that you try to ignore, but everybody's showing it, so eventually you see it. So I've seen actually, and I was like, man, every time I look at Brady, he just looks older to me. And we're all the same age. We're all around the same age, I believe. So think of when you saw all Bob, you almost pushing 52, ain't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, we're guys. It doesn't matter. Look, I'm 51. I think Kyle's 50. So
no. I'm 52. 52, man.
What are you now?
I'm
guys.
Oh wow, you're the oldest, huh? Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Well, Bob,
I'm only a couple years behind you guys, and I'm wrecked. So
yeah. Look, man. Look. Bottom line is, guys, the NFL. In the National Football League, you got to be able to prepare and have a succession plan. You have to have some sort of idea in case of this happening. What's going to be the next
contingency?
So my old VP used to always say this, Kyle, I'm always interviewing for your replacement. And she meant it. Because
sad but true.
But if something should happen to me, or if I decide I'm going to go off and start
retire or whatever,
she's got to have that contingency. For the city, love what he's done for that franchise. I'm not saying he's ready to hang him up. I'd love to see him play another 2 or 3 years. But we've got to start preparing just in case. What are your thoughts, Bob?
Well, guys, and I think that they have done that. And I'm not talking about the backup quarterback position per se. I think that they've done that in the way that they have reconstructed the offense around Drew. Because of that should be able to buy him another couple years. He's still playing at a Pro Bowl level. He's never been that John Elway kind of guy that can zip the ball 80 yards with a flick of his wrist. He is more a timing. I don't want to call him a fearsome quarterback, so don't misunderstand that. But he has always been deadly accurate. He is that gunslinger that if you give him one bullet, he'll manage to kill 3 guys with it. And that's been Drew's strength. And as a result, these people that want to draft or sign these pure speed guys that can only run 9 routes or only go deep down the sideline, that's not Drew's game. It never has been, but it especially isn't now. So I think that when we see I liked the drafting of Traquan Smith last year, and although he has a lot of progression he has yet to do and development-wise, I think that they're building this receiving core to pepper somebody through the short and intermediate routes. Somebody like Traquan, somebody like Keith Kirkwood. They signed Cameron Meredith for a reason because they saw that in him. Even when they were courting Des Bryant and bringing him in, that's never been a speed guy either. We see the way the Patriots, and the comparison that you made with the Patriots offense and Julian Edelman and Gronkowski. That's the way that this Saints offense and receiving core and tight end core need to be. You don't need to have a team of Ted Ginn. It's nice to have one or two to take that top off, to at least keep one safety from kind of. I think he will. Traquan Smith and, of course, Michael Thomas. Those guys have to get separation through sharp route running. It's not all about speed. It's not all about, they don't need a guy running a 4.2. They just need a guy to run crisp, sharp routes. That's what gets you separation in the NFL. And because of the way that the Saints offense is constructed, and we all know about the big uglies on the offensive line, and if they're healthy, what they're capable of doing. And the two-headed punch of Ingram and Kamara, and we'll circle back to Ingram in a minute, because I think he is the key to this offseason, having a capable and versatile running attack. You're not going to get a 50-50 balance out of a Sean Payton offense, but you better have a productive running game, as we've seen the Saints have in the last 2 years, because that keeps the pressure off any quarterback, let alone a guy whose arm strength has diminished just a little bit, and just a little bit in this level of the NFL, that will cost you games. That will cost you championships. So, yeah, I think that the contingency plan for Breeze is the way that this offense is constructed. Bridgewater, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Teddy this offseason, see if the Saints let him test the free agent market, or if there's a deal behind closed doors that, hey, you kick the tires on somebody else to see if you have a legitimate starting gig next year. If not, we want you back here because in 2 years, potentially, this job is yours. And Kyle, you and I have talked about that. Teddy is 27 right now. I think he'll be 28 the first month or so into the season. His whole career essentially is still ahead of him. He has to like the way this offense is constructed, because it's constructed, by the way, for his skill set as well. He needs to improve his accuracy vastly, but he's never been a deep ball flamethrower either. He has the style of game that will pepper you through these short and intermediate routes. So again, we come back to the way the Saints offense is constructed. Teddy Bridgewater, is he your quarterback of the future? I don't know. That's going to be an interesting storyline. But again, for all the reasons that I just mentioned, I think Mark Ingram is the key to this whole Saints off season.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. And matter of fact, when you guys wake up in the morning, you'll see the article that I wrote for Big Easy Magazine, kind of touching on that subject and several others. In my little scouting combine preview, there's a kid who reminds me somewhat of a Mark Ingram. His name is David Montgomery, a running back from Iowa State. He's considered you have different type of running backs. You have scat backs, like Kamara or a Sproles type of player or whatever. And then you have, where your traditional power back, the guys that we grew up with, the Eric Dickerson type of guys or whatever. Well, this Montgomery kid is very impressive, and he's considered the number one power back coming out in this year's draft class. So, not suggesting anything, but again, talking about contingency, and so. What free agent running backs are out there? Not really anybody to my knowledge this year. So, so this would be a year that they might draft a running back. They might even draft. Last year they had the Boston Scott kids and they cut him and that didn't work out. But this would be the year. Yeah, look, I know they don't have many picks in the draft. They're obviously handcuffed with what they can do. But look, we've seen it. Look, when he wanted Kamara, he went out and he got Kamara. Mm-hmm. So look, if they want to get back into, let's say, the third round, or they even want to wheel and deal and jump back into the first and make a move that none of us see coming, because you never know. So look, again, you know how they just got beat. You know how they just got put out the playoffs. And to Kyle's point, again, got to be aggressive. Hey, man, who's to say? You don't know. I know saying Twitter and on Facebook, I got people chastising me. Oh, man, you shouldn't suggest the honey badger. And that. Look, man, it's my job to cover the Saints. So I'm going to cover all the possibilities. Okay? You know what I'm saying? I'm going to cover all of it. I mean, what's the point of me writing about it if I ain't going to cover it? So I'm going to cover it. And I'm going to tell you, it could happen. I didn't say it should happen, but it could. And if I'm a team that just got beat the way they got beat, brother, I'm going to put all my chips on the table and we going for it.
Yeah. You've got to really put all your pieces out there, do the honest evaluation.
I mean, why are you doing it otherwise?
Yeah, and that's why you field a winning team, and that's how you field a winning team.
Yes.
So you never see, let's say, the Patriots. Bill Belichick is never really satisfied with his roster. That's why he was
always
able
turning
to
it over, always.
Let a guy like Fowler go. He was able to let a guy, many guys before leave the organization, but find
Wes Welker.
People. Yeah, and find the people who fit the concept that they would like to run. And Sean Payton has
the
a
quote-unquote Patriot
concept.
way.
Right. Well, and why can't there be a Saints way? Why can't there be the way Sean Payton would like to have
and
his
you know
team
what?
to
And look, to their credit, Kyle, to their credit, I think they have been doing that the last 2 years. I mean, come on, let's face it, dude. The way they've lost, the way they've been eliminated the last 2 years, there's no way you can't say that the New Orleans Saints franchise in the last 2 seasons in the National Football League haven't been a top 3, top 4, top 5, whatever you want, caliber team. Well, they are an elite franchise right now. They were down for a while. And look, they made their bed and they lied in it. God bless them. They bounced back and they did a great job.
Right.
And they, but to your point, Kyle, you can't just stop. You can't just say, okay, we quit. Man, you're right there. So let's put it over the top.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. Let's put it over the top.
Okay. All right. And I'm just going to finish it like this, Barry and Bob. The bottom line is when you have guys who have shown potential, like you mentioned, Traquan and Kirkwood. Mm-hmm. We've seen guys in the past like Lance Moores of the past and Willie Sneads, right, who've come in and made major contributions to the team. I think Kirkwood, latter part of the season, was on that verge, of being there. And I think he was sorely missed in that Rams game, Traquan has to gain a little bit more confidence in what he's doing. Now, I think what we saw in him was a lack of being able to be more confident in what he did and understand what his role is. So, and you have a guy like Meredith that you say, I don't know if Meredith is the long-term solution for that type of role player like Lance Moore or whatever, but I think Kirkwood right now and Smith are the guys to be there. But we still cannot leave out the fact that if Mark Ingram does not return to the New Orleans Saints, the Saints are going to have to find somebody, either through the draft or free agency, that's going to really make an impact and complement Kamara well. And it's not going to be a slash and gash type of guy. We need a pound and ground guy who can also catch that ball from out of the backfield and be able to pass protect Drew Brees.
Yeah.
So those are the elements I believe Ireland and Loomis are going to be looking for. And in the scouting department, I'm pretty sure there's some really good talented running backs that are coming out. But
oh yeah, and the Montgomery kid from Iowa State is one of them.
Right. And
just a name to remember.
yeah. And there's some really good guys. So all I'm saying is this, guys. Let's just be aware of that, and let's just be aware that there are a lot of pieces that are going to be critically needed, and the defensive tackle and tight end situation has to be addressed. It can't be ignored any longer. I don't care what people say. Josh Hill is going to be the starter. Josh Hill, out of the past, how many years has he been with us? 4 or 5 years? Josh Hill is not a starter, guys. He's not a starter.
I love Josh Hill, but come on, man. Really?
He's not going to be a starter. I'm sorry.
Well, guys, and that's why I personally would put I think we're all in agreement that they're not going to overpay for Ingram. There are contingency plans that if they lose Mark, there's a couple names in free agency that intrigue me that won't cost them an arm and a leg, and they would definitely target one in the draft. The reason why I said Ingram is the key to this off season is because if they can't retain Ingram at a reasonable price, running back has to vault into that top 1, 2, or 3.
It's one.
I mean, if they figure out if they can keep Mark, then defensive tackle, tight end are my two, and we'll call them 1A and 1B because I can't really differentiate between the two.
Yeah,
I'd like to see them get another edge or at least a playmaker at linebacker to kind of take some snaps away from Klein. And I don't disagree with the people that are calling safety a need. I don't necessarily think a starting caliber safety, but I would like to see another playmaker there. Yeah. Other people have said cornerback, but guys, and they got Lattimore, and they have your favorite corner in the whole league, Kyle, Eli Apple. I mean, they have. Remember, guys, they have Patrick Robinson returning. From injury. And that's as big as any free agent signing that they could get. So that secondary is already going to be bolstered, at least on paper. Sorry to interrupt everyone.
Nah, you're good. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was just going to just quickly add that, and to your point about cornerbacks, when you see my article in the morning for Big Easy Magazine, it's the only position that I didn't cover for the combine, which shows you where I rank it in importance. So I like you, Bob. I think it's defensive tackle and tight end. You pretty much could flip a coin. The Saints are extremely fortunate, in my opinion, because this year this happens to be a very deep class, not only in tight end, but defensive tackle, interior line, and 3 techniques even. So the Draymond Jones kid from Ohio State is fabulous. I mean, I know it sounds crazy that they would draft a defensive tackle with the first pick in the second round, but hey, you don't know what's going to happen with rankings, and Onyemata will probably come back, but hey, Draymond Jones is still sitting there at 62. Imagine having an interior line when Rankins comes back and he's healthy. Imagine having a Draymond Jones, All-American rookie from Ohio State next to Rankins, who's becoming one of the better interior players in the entire league, and his third or fourth, assuming he recovers from the point being that, there's a lot of talent at the 2 positions of need, quote unquote, that they're going to have to address. So they're fortunate in that regard. Again, I agree with you, Bob, in that aspect as well. It's going to be about free agency and how aggressive do you be? Would you splurge? Would you splurge and say, look, we really want to put completely over the top. We're signing the Honey Badger. And then you got Von Bell, Marcus Williams, and Matthew. I know they don't play the free safety alignments as much as they had in previous seasons, but just imagine if they did, and having the option of throwing those three guys out there in coverage. It'd be pretty tough to throw against. And then if, you got Lattimore on one side, and if Apple is actually improving as allegedly he is, or, as we think he might be, hey, look, that's all of a sudden, that's a pretty impressive secondary. So my point being, how, again, to Kyle's point, you got to stay, man, keep your foot on the gas pedal. Look, I've seen all these people say, oh, I want to, attacking me for writing the Honey Badger article, basically, although Kyle and I were very pleased with the numbers. So I think people appreciated the article based on that. But, and I've heard this stuff about, he needs to stay out of New Orleans. And, look, you could take the kid out of New Orleans, but you ain't going to take New Orleans out the kid. If he wants to come home, he's going to come home.
Look, Barry, man, he was a model citizen here in Houston. Houston has a lot of temptations, too. I believe more than New Orleans because it's a much larger city and there's a lot of other activity that goes on here.
You don't get in trouble wherever you go. If you're looking for trouble, you will find it.
Yeah, you will find trouble if you decide to find it. But I don't want to belabor the point. Look, we still need playmakers, and I think, Bob, you said this. And whether people like it or not, and I know people don't like to say, well, A.J. Klein, you played such a good game the last few games of the year. Fine. We still need some playmakers to complement Davis because Teo's going to be gone unless they re-sign him. And we just need to have someone else who can complement him. And I was reading Luke Johnson's article from NOLA.com, and Kawan Alexander is a particularly interesting case there. He's going to be able to test the market. Could that be somebody the Saints look at? And we know the kid is a playmaker, and under Nolan, how could he be able to flourish? And that's intriguing prospect. We need more speed. And that's what was missing at times with the Saints. Can we get more speed offensively? Can we get more speed defensively as well? Okay? And what brought the offensive speed out, I should say exposed, was that Dallas Cowboys game. We need more speed, whether you like it or not. And that's why, Bob, I really believe we do need somebody who's a little bit more speedy down the sidelines, who could be able to get open and create more separation. We do need that type of person.
No, I just want to say real quick, also keep in mind your quote-unquote designated speed guy is about to turn 34 years old.
Exactly.
So remember that.
Exactly.
My only point in saying that is the other needs that the three of us have highlighted, defensive tackle, tight end. I think all three of us mentioned how we would like to see another athletic linebacker. Of all those needs, that I would not put I would not put a fast wide receiver above anything that we mentioned. Would I put it if we backed off our needs to say list top 5, then another playmaking receiver, fourth, fifth, certainly in the top 5. Because none of these guys, again, I love him to death since he came to New Orleans. And guys, I never thought I'd say that. But he is 34, and they do need another plan in place for him. Traquan Smith, he has the athletic tools to be a success, but I don't think you can go into 2019 counting on that based off of the vast inconsistencies that we saw from him last year. We have seen the Saints get playmakers at both running back and wide receiver in the latter stages of the draft or even as undrafted free agents. And I think that that's where we'll see them probably bring in a few athletes then. My only point was I just don't see it being addressed highly in free agency, and I certainly don't see them using their number 2 overall draft choice on a speed guy, unless we can see those other needs, the tight end, a defensive tackle, perhaps another athletic playmaker somewhere in the back 7, be it the secondary or linebacking core. If we see all those boxes checked off in free agency, then I think that then you might see your down the field wide out being addressed with that number 2 pick.
Yeah. Okay. And look, I
didn't mean to cut you off. I just want to say real quick that like every draft, regardless of where you're picking from, whatever, unless you got the number 1 pick, of course, it's all about how it slots out. And what teams do ahead of you, and who falls, because inevitably somebody's going to fall. And if you're not picking to number 62, a defensive tackle at 62, you're probably going to get a pretty decent one this year. So you could get a Draymond Jones maybe, but a wide receiver you definitely could. You could get a kid like Deebo Samuel from South Carolina, who you guys have seen me cover like 2 or 3 times already, and you'll see him again tomorrow morning. So, I think he would be perfect. And I think he'd return like 3 or 4 kickoffs for touchdown.
Yeah.
So you'd finally have your kickoff returner too. And I'm not suggesting that they should. Just saying, you're at 62 and a Deebo Samuel is still on the board. I bet you I'd take him. I bet you Sean Payton would take him and do all kind of stuff with him.
Yeah, Look, whoever they take, it's got to be a playmaker. That's well,
it's got to be an impact guy.
And it has to be a guy.
Kyle,
it has to be a guy.
Win the Super Bowl.
Look, it's got to be a guy. How do I say this? In free agency, as well as in this draft, those first 2 free agents and those first 2 draft choices have to be guys that are either going to solidify that inside interior of your lines, or it's got to be a playmaker. That's how I look at it. Okay.
Yeah. There you go.
And
good.
If you cannot do that, then you have a problem. Okay. You've got to be able to have somebody who's going to make immediate contributions to this team, because you cannot wait any longer. This was the year the Saints could have won it all if it were not for a blown call, right? But since we've got to move forward, you cannot waste Drew's timetable any longer. You cannot waste it. It has to be done this year. So if you're going to go chips in like you did last year, you've got to go chips in again this year. You've got to have that same mentality. All right. Now, while we're on it, guys, let's kind of talk a little bit about what happened with the NFL this past week. It was stated that the NFL Rules Committee, under the guidance of owner John Mara, as well as Stephen Jones, he's from the Dallas Cowboys. He's a major force there. But Harbaugh from Baltimore made a passionate plea for the changes, right? And Bob, me being a little bit skeptical anyway, I knew they weren't going to do anything, especially so soon after the Super Bowl. And I'm pretty sure Roger Goodell made them realize nothing should be done at this time. Their argument is it's human error. So the officials will make human mistakes. The officials will do this. The officials will do that. What are your thoughts about, is it the officials can make mistakes, and why can't the National Football League embrace technology to cover some of those mistakes? What are your thoughts?
Well, and you called yourself tongue-in-cheek skeptical. I may be one step beyond that. I used the word corruption multiple times in articles following the NFC Championship game, and I used it on this show. And I'm not willing to back off of that. Yes, of course, I'm willing to acknowledge that officiating on every level in every sport, there has an element of human error. And as long as humans are playing this game, you can't. I agree. However, there is no human error in corruption. And that's what this league stinks of right now. And I'm not just talking about against the New Orleans Saints. That is the most recent and most egregious example. I am just talking about the bitter taste that the end of this season left throughout the mouths of most of the fans throughout the NFL. The Saints are just the worst of it. Am I surprised by what happened? By the fact that they barely even acknowledged what happened in that NFC Championship game, let alone are willing to do anything about it? I am not surprised in the least. I think for this game to survive, this league in its current form can survive, and I call for it again. I called for it once a couple years ago. I called for it once this season, and I certainly have called for it since the end of the season. For this league to continue to expand and expound on its massive popularity and not take a step backwards, Roger Goodell and the current regime at the top of the league have to go. I've called them criminals before. I'm not going to back off of that now. As long as they can tweak the wording of the rules and leave enough things open for certain factions of this league to continue to be successful, then that's what Goodell and his cronies are going to continue to do. They have gotten worse over the years because they have not been held accountable for their actions or lack thereof. So why should this be any different? Nobody's holding them accountable now. So until the very top portion, the part that stinks the most about this league, until that's gone, I don't think we'll see any changes. Do I think every single play and every single penalty should be reviewed or even reviewable? I actually don't. I like to see my football games operate at a certain flow, and I think if coaches had coaches, for example, had the unlimited capacity to challenge every single thing that happens on the field, I think that that's just asking for trouble. I do believe that when you have a situation like occurred in the NFC Championship game, particularly with the non-pass interference penalty on Tommy Lee Lewis, it was obvious that there were officials that the officials within that crew had a difference among each other. I think at that point, someone needs to step in and say, all right, guys, this goes upstairs. You guys can't even figure out on the field as a crew what happened and not happened. And you can say all the tongue-in-cheek remarks that you want about how it went down on the field. But I think instances like that is when a technology should be able to come to the rescue and prevent anybody from saying the things that I'm saying. I mean, I'm using words like criminal and corrupt against the biggest business one of the biggest businesses in this country. I shouldn't be allowed to. That shouldn't even be a question. And the fact that it is means that technology has not been allowed to step in and cure what ails this league right now.
Okay, I gotta step in. I've got to step in, Bob. And Barry, maybe you can help me out here. But think about this: how long did it take Major League Baseball to embrace not just the human error on calling foul balls? Think about this, guys. it was just a few years ago that they started using replays to help them with that aspect, right? You're talking about big money. And, you know, the National Football League is starting to become much bigger than the Major League Baseball. You know, that used to be America's game. Now the America's game is National Football League. They know this. That's why they command the big dollars. That's why they have the bigger productions. And that's why sponsors crave to get prime spots during those football games. That's the reason why they are concerned. Because if you go longer, Barry and Bob, with these football games, reviewing a play here and reviewing a play there, those sponsors are going to ask for what back? Money.
Yep.
Okay? Guys, what drives these decisions is not about the integrity of the game. It's not about if it's fair or not. Remember, the National Football League puts 10 players out there as referees every game. These are contract guys. They're not full-time. They're contractors that they have out on that field calling these games, right? And if you want to have a professional league, why aren't those guys full-time professionals, right? So they know where to save money here, where to expand their dollars and cents there. Roger Goodell talked to those owners and been talking to them years how we can condense the game, right? Because we got to fit it in that 3-hour window in order to be able to have our sponsors happy. If we go any longer, they're gonna be in trouble. That's the bottom line, guys. And when you as a fan start to look at this game as dollars and cents, the corruption factor that you just talked about, Bob, is not going to really be a part of it any longer, because they're thinking about how they're going to keep more dollars in their pocket. It's collusion. Right?
That's a form of corruption, though, isn't it?
It's a form of corruption, right? We've seen the collusion happen with Colin Kaepernick, Eric Reed, done by the NFL owners as well, guys. They did not want those young men on the field because of what? Money. The money was being hurt from the advertising to the seats in the stands. Okay? Every decision Goodell makes is not because he wants to be known as Big and Mr. Fair Goodell. It's about how he can put more money in his owners' pockets. Okay? That's how you need to start looking at everything that happens in this football game. In this whole business is about how the money is going to be transferred. And the NFL wants most of the money in their pockets, bottom line.
Well, and because of that, I actually have a solution. I don't think it's realistic, so therefore certainly won't happen. Other people who are kind of in agreement with me about Goodell and that regime have said, well, the owners could get rid of them. Yeah, technically they could, but for all the reasons that you just said, Kyle, they won't.
No, they're not.
Because of the other C word, collusion. It will take a different, almost outside form. It will take the TV networks and the real money that pumps the money into this business for them to step in and say, we've had enough of your product. It more resembles the WWE events on pay-per-view in the USA Network than what we want to put on our network. It's almost becoming unwatchable. I'm not saying that. I'm just paraphrasing. It's becoming unwatchable, and we're going to start to use other programming in your place. That's going to cost the league money, and that's going to be the only way that this kind of thing will ever happen, what I had said before about the very skim off the scum at the very top.
That's not going to happen.
I know. Like I said, I didn't say it was a realistic solution.
It ain't going to happen. Yeah. Look, man, again, every dollar that Budweiser puts in those dilly-dilly commercials, they're getting 3 or 4 back in return. Okay? That's why the millions they put out there is for a reason. They're not just advertising for the sake of advertising, make sure they're the king of beers and whatever. They know that every dollar they drop, they're going to get a return on that investment. Okay? And the best way to be able to get a better return on the investment is where the bigger audiences are going to be. And they know right there that's National Football League. It used to be Major League Baseball, right? But the baseball attendance and as well as the dollars and revenues from TV is not as great as it used to be. So that's why they're putting everything into football, and that's why even the women participation in football, you see more ads catering to ladies, right? It's about dollars, guys, and I know business a little bit, but I just want you guys to realize when we look at that product on the field, when they say the word professional, they mean professional from all vantage points.
Yeah.
Okay? That's it. That's all I have to say about that.
Hey, great. Great discussion. And I know you guys caught my article yesterday morning for Big Easy Magazine. And, of course, I covered it for Saints News Network as well. And look, I mean, to me, because I know you guys want me to have my say on this particular matter. My big takeaway is I think if the NFL was trying to squash the image problem and trying to squash the perception that it's corrupt or that it's rigged, because you got Saints fans coming up with wild conspiracy theories. Now, and look, again, I grew up a Saints fan, okay? I know what it feels like. Bob, I don't know when you actually became a fan, but for me and Kyle, born and raised in New Orleans all our lives, I mean, it's ingrained in you since you're a little kid. And Kyle, I know you remember Big Ben 1978. I know you remember the Rams game 1983.
Yep.
And they lost on Mike Lansford kick and so we know what heartbreak's about, right? So that ain't my problem with all that. Okay, I know Saints fans are hurting. I still hurt. That's one of the reasons why I hadn't been writing so many articles in the last month, because quite honestly, my heart wasn't in it. I'm just now coming out of my funk, so to speak. That's why I'm on the radio with you guys tonight. And yeah, I got plenty to say. So maybe Bob will have me on again in a few weeks. Maybe when we do get closer to draft or something, or free agency, we can do maybe a free agency show. For sure. My big thing is this: is if you're the NFL and you're Roger Goodell and you have this image problem that you have to fix, well, why not fire the 2 guys, okay, that egregiously were standing right there and missed the call? Not only that, but if you catch certain angles, you see the head referee on the crew looking right at it. Okay, so basically the head referee of the crew, who basically outright essentially lied to a reporter. Yeah, he lied. Yeah. So all those guys should be fired. Those 3 in particular. I'm not suggesting the whole entire crew.
Let's go back to the money.
Okay, maybe if you want to go overboard and just go start firing everybody.
Barry.
Guys closest to the play, and the head referee, they would have been fired.
Barry.
That would have showed the New Orleans Saints fans, hey, we saw it too. We apologize. We can't overturn it, but we feel your pain. And as a consequence of their inaction, these guys are fired.
Barry.
And if you would have done that,
no.
I guarantee you, Saints fans would have had an entirely different reaction to the one they have now.
Barry, all due respect, he don't give a rat's patoot about what the Saints fans care about. They fired Hugo, I forgot the guy's last name, who was a referee for blowing a false start call against the Browns and Chargers, right? Or Raiders and Chargers, whoever.
Yeah,
so therefore, if this guy can get canned just for missing a false start call, why couldn't these guys get canned? Because
you cost the team a Super Bowl appearance.
Yeah, let me tell you the reason why. Because one, he knows the New Orleans Saints whole fan base hates him. Number one, right? And we've been despising him since Bounty Gate. Okay.
Right.
Number two, he's never, ever going to admit fault. He's never going to do it. You notice that in his press conference, he didn't admit any fault. He just said things need to be reviewed and we're going to look at it. That's all he was saying.
That's
right? Guys, the money also, because remember, there was a lawsuit out there at that particular time. He wasn't going to admit any fault, and that could possibly contribute to the lawsuit being granted and then being replayed, because they came up with this astronomical number that was going to cost them $100 million to be able to replay that one game. Ludicrous. Okay? So I'm telling you guys, it's all about the dollars and cents with Goodell, NFL, those owners. They're going to bound together and hang together and support one another because they don't want to look bad. If they look bad, they're going to lose some dollars. And that's why it was never going to go down that way. I just wanted
to chip in and say, think about it from this aspect. And now with the Anthony Davis thing with the Pelicans, even more so, that Gail Benson is becoming like an outsider in professional sports. You know, and New Orleans is becoming this rogue city now. Between the way the NFC Championship game ended and the Anthony Davis thing, now New Orleans has and I apologize for changing the topic completely, but right before I came on the air with you guys, Byron Scott, former L.A. Lakers, former New Orleans Hornets coach, just berated Gail Benson and the Pelicans organization. And I was like, man, Byron Scott, look, I respect you, brother. I know you won a couple of titles with the Lakers and all that stuff, but you just don't understand the ownership situation. He's speaking as an ex-Los Angeles Laker. So naturally he's going to take the Lakers side, but just the things he said about Gail Benson and Pelicans ownership, which is obviously Saints ownership, was just egregiously off base and just completely inaccurate. And I was like, wow. So the perception nationally is out there that New Orleans fans, Pelicans fans or Saints fans, Who Dat Nation, and just New Orleans or people, anything associated with New Orleans right now is kind of like, on the fringe, so to speak. So, fair or not, that's the reputation that's starting to develop with all this stuff. And I kind of like that. I kind of like it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I love it.
Look, man.
I embrace it.
Miss Benson did the right thing when she fired, what's his name? But anyway, she did the right thing. And Gail Benson did the right thing supporting this fan base who supports her. right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
therefore, Gail Benson, she learned some things under her husband, evidently, and I loved it. And Gail Benson, if they don't watch it, will become more powerful as a result of these attacks. Her voice, she may be gaining some power in the next couple of years that people are going to say, wow, we didn't see this coming.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and you and I had talked about that too. After the initial sting of that NFC Championship, it kind of, when we were talking about hey, what happens from here? How does the organization pick up the pieces? Because honestly, guys, that's more important than us, the fans. Is how those players on the field and that front office and that organization and community picks it up. She has been, I agree with both of you, she has been an absolute beacon and a source of strength. The team has rallied around her and just kind of used this, it has seemed to use this so far as a rallying cry, which, Saints fans, if you're looking for something positive, to head into this off season and to kind of springboard us into next season, that is something to be very positive about. Is that they aren't continuing. We might be, but they aren't continuing to cry, "Woe is me, woe is me." They are basically saying kind of what you were talking about, Barry, about being sort of a rogue. They're saying, we know that this is going to continue to happen to us, but guess what? I'm paraphrasing, of course, but guess what? We're just going to kick your ass and we're not even going to leave anything to doubt, or we're not going to leave it into the hands of things.
I completely agree with you. I think that if the Saints were smart, they would play it up to the hilt, and I would embrace it. You got guys like Michael Thomas on social media and Kamara, and those guys are perfect to throw that kind of shade out there. So, I say embrace it, man. Because look, let's call it for what it is. Okay? You just got ripped off, basically, of the World Championship. But you still got a good enough team comprised as is, with the exception of losing rankings probably really hurts. But you can compensate for that. If you just make a few minor tweaks, look, you're still a top 5 team. There's no reason why you won't be a legit Super Bowl contender, at least for next year and maybe 2 or 3 years. Who knows? Okay. Bottom line is, man, embrace it and push all the, again, if I'm them, I'll put together a marketing campaign and say we're all in, or just whatever, some kind of goofy little thing, whatever, just to let everybody know, hey, we have a chip on our shoulder. You think we had this perception, or everybody thinks we have this chip on our shoulder. So you know what? You're damn right. We got a chip on our shoulder. And just come out there and just let it all hang out. Go out there and play like you were 11 years old again, like you just got home from school and you ran out into the big field across the street with your buddy. Play it like that, man, and just lay it all on the line.
Look.
Stop playing the game for, I didn't get my, a Le'Veon Bell, prime example of what I'm talking about. Come on, man. Everything is so, when we and again, I know I allude to the similar age that we all share, but you guys remember what watching football was like growing up in the mid-late 70s? Man, that was spectacular, man. And Roger Staubach and Terry Bradshaw and Stabler and all those guys, man. And football was just, man, you lived for it, you breathed it. And now it's just so watered down, and you got
it's a business. It's a business, Dad.
Corruption.
It's a business, Dad. It's a business. I'm sorry. It's a business. And look, Gail Benson pulled off the biggest gangster move there was when when Anthony Davis walked off and she fired old boy. All right, I'm with the fans. That's what she was doing. Again, I want you guys to know that I'm with the fans on this one. Oh, I supported this guy all these years. My husband supported him all these years, but that's out of control. Something's got to go. Okay, I'm telling you, Gail Benson and the New Orleans Saints will adopt that is us against the world mentality. The same way the New England Patriots the past couple of seasons have had that us against the world mentality. Even though Goodell loves Robert Kraft and and everything else. Speaking of Robert Kraft, guys, I gotta be we've gotta throw this in. We gotta throw this in, Bob. You're not a millionaire. You're not just a millionaire. You are a billionaire. Come on. Come on, Bobby. Come on, Bobby Kraft. What are you doing? What are you doing? And I'm saying this to say this. If you're going to suspend Amniata, right? Let's say he gets a suspension of 4 games just because he has some cannabis type products mailed to him, right? What's going to happen to Kraft, man? Come on. I mean, you gave Irsay 6 games and you what's it, $500,000 fine. What is Kraft going to get from this? And he did it in Florida the day of the AFC Championship game. Think about this, guys.
He flew down and had a little fun and flew and watched the game.
Yeah, and I know, Bob, you don't want to talk about
quite
it.
Full.
Yeah, I mean, this is just again, when you at that level, you got to do like Donald J. Trump. You get somebody get this stuff for you. You get a Michael Cohen to help you out, man. I'm sorry, I'm getting political, but bottom line, guys, I really believe that the New Orleans Saints are going to have that mentality in focus. You saw it at the this season, after that debacle of the first game, right? But the team was able to galvanize and come through and put together a very good season for the Saints fans, and I think that's where we're headed for the rest of the season as well. We have a pretty favorable schedule with some big name good games out there that we're going to participate in. So, but all in all, it's going to be a challenge, right? We got to stay healthy, and we got to make sure key people are going to really be put in place at the beginning of the season instead of waiting through trades and all this other stuff. All right, guys, let's kind of wrap up the show. Bob, any last thoughts on your end, buddy?
No, I mean, we've like we said earlier, we have a long and eventful off season to talk about, and there's a lot to look forward to. Free agency is right around the corner, literally about 2 weeks away. I think maybe 2 or 3 weeks away. That's always fun, for people like you and me and Barry. That's always a fun period to cover. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm sitting on the edge of my seat for what happens with Ingram and Tyler Davison, and to see what new faces are going to be brought in. Because folks, there will be new faces brought in. I promise you that.
Oh yeah.
So that's going to be pretty fun, and we have a lot of shows to look forward to. We're coming up on you and me being together 1 year doing this, Kyle. So we'll have to figure out what we're going to do for our 1 year celebration that's coming up in about a month. But we want to thank you guys as always for your support, not only in listening to our show, but talking about our show, putting it out through social media networks. You guys are the real backbone. I mean, we've had some awesome guests on here. We've had some awesome shows, I think, and we've had a lot of fun doing it. But the reason why we're having so much fun and the reason why we've grown so much over the last year is you folks listening. So I want to thank you all very much. I truly love what you've done for us. I appreciate it.
Definitely. It'll be my 10th year in doing this season. So thank you. Thank you guys for allowing us to be on your airwaves, in your minds, and hitting the grind when it comes to reading about and listening to us talk about our favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Barry, tell everybody how they can be able to follow you on the web.
Oh, all right. You can reach me, you don't have to reach me, but you can find me on Twitter at Barry Hirstius. That's spelled Hirstius. And, of course, I am the featured columnist for Saints News Network, part-time editor, and also now the official Saints writer for Big Easy Magazine. You can catch my work there every Tuesday and every Thursday. And so basically the days I don't write for Big Easy Magazine, I'm writing for Kyle. And I will be full doing free agency this weekend at Saints News Network. So, and matter of fact, maybe a Quan Alexander article might snap up in there. We'll see. But and I'll have a piece out tomorrow morning for Big Easy Magazine on the NFL Scouting Combine.
All right. Sounds good.
Nice. All right.
Bobby Rose, tell everybody how they can be able to read and follow you.
Well, first of all, I want to apologize to everyone that does follow my work. I know I've been lacking a little bit in content and number of pieces that I've released since the NFC Championship game. There are a variety of reasons for that, but I appreciate everyone's patience. Especially you, Mr. John Hendricks, if you're listening. You're an awesome boss, and I appreciate your help through this as well. But I can be found on Facebook at find me, Bob Rose. And if you aren't already a member of our fantastic, loving Facebook family, please find us. We are a Bayou Blitz Facebook group that is growing by the day. I'm so proud of everybody that's helped out with that as well. We have a lot of fun in that group. So if you know of anybody that would love to join in our fun, please let them know about us. It's real easy to get in, and we encourage everybody to participate. It can be found on Twitter as well, at BobbyR2613. And, of course, the majority of my articles are through the Canal Street Chronicles, which can be found on Facebook, Canal Street Chronicles, or Twitter at St. CSC. I've been known to contribute a little bit myself for the Big Easy Magazine. So, Barry, if you're talking to Jen or Scott, tell them I'm on the mend and I'll get back to work as quickly as I can.
All right. Sounds good. And also, look, the invitation has always been out there for you for the last, year and a half to come write with us. I mean, I understand you're full-time with Canal Street Chronicles and John Hendricks and the great guys over there, and I don't begrudge you for that, but you're more than welcome to write a guest opinion article or whatever. And, and look, hey, some of the stuff we discussed on tonight's show would be a great thing for you to write about. And of course, you and I worked together in the past, and you already know what I think of you as a writer. So, hey, man, don't pigeonhole yourself.
Yeah, despite that, you offered the invite anyway.
Yeah, hey, look, we had how many great topics tonight? Write a few things. I mean, hey, man, look. But anyway, you do phenomenal work, and I love you, brother. And I'm sorry I hadn't been on with you guys in a while. And, hey, I feel your pain, believe me. I grew up with this team, man, but I'm so numb to it. And I've had so many people ask me, how come you didn't, if you catch me on Twitter, I don't really post much on Facebook, but if you catch me on Twitter, I get a little crazy on Twitter. So I kind of let my feelings come out on Twitter, much more so than Facebook. I'm very private on Facebook.
No, really? I would not have guessed that.
You'll see what I really think. Trust me.
No, not you. Yeah, well,
anyway, guys, I've had a great time tonight.
I'm saying that.
Again,
hold on, Barry. Hold on. Slow your roll.
Uh-oh.
All right. you guys cannot find me anywhere on Facebook, Twitter, or anywhere like that. And
Liar.
I don't get any invitations to write for Big Easy Believer and Canal Street Chronicles and none of those guys. They do not like me. And New Orleans
never. You write anytime you want.
And New Orleans Saints fans and New Orleans Saints organization have banned me for life. So yes, I am a rogue. But anyway, guys, you can follow us at www.saintsnewsnetwork.com, as well as you can check us out at Saints News on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and just kind of follow us and kind of give us some support this season. We are here, and we're still putting it down for our 10th year in the business. I'm Kyle T. Mosley, and as always, it's great to have my man from Harahan, Mr. Barry Hirstius, and Mr. Bobby Rose of the Big
Canal
Easy, whatever.
But yeah, and just real quick before we sign off,
Barry,
I'm pretty sure
Barry.
you guys are going to do a free agency special and a draft special, and so I would more than happy to appear on those two episodes.
No, we're not going to do any of that, Barry. We're going to do our own stuff. We're going to talk about I don't know. We're going to start some sort of controversy somewhere. But guys, I know I'm being a little tongue in cheek. It might be the medication that I'm on today. So just bear with me on that. Look, guys, in all seriousness, follow Barry, follow Bob. Those guys put down some great stuff. Follow those guys, John Hendricks, and those guys at Canal Street Chronicles as well. Just support everybody in the Who Dat Nation. Also, you can listen to us on our podcast station at saintspodcast.com. This is Kyle T. Mosley of Saints News Network with Barry Hirstius and Bob Rose. You guys have a great night, and we will see you guys next week. Take care.
Good night.
Good night.